So, a few of you have asked if I could give a tour of Khan's Hangar. Now, I don't know if there's a flight museum or World War II museum, history museum in Louisville. Probably is, but now there's a new one, Khan's Hangar at Pecos Field. This is the logo for Khan's Hangar, and it was a gift from the members of the Texas Administrators of Continuing Education for me serving as president of the organization. And they knew I loved airplanes and warbirds, and I was really surprised when they shared this cool piece of art with me. So we back up, and now in our new house on Pecos Street in Louisville, I finally have my dream office place. And so it's got a lot of special things in here. Just about everything has a story. And I'll start with to the left. And this is a tour I'd love to give to you in person. If you come in person, we'll have a snack bar. We could have beer, wine, soda, whatever you like. And I could sit down with you and we could look at things more closely. But at least this will give you a chance to see what I have in here. And let's go ahead and start with this shelf to the left. Very top, I got a very cool Spirit of St. Louis wood model from my friend Irene Grinnell. So she let me have that when she was moving. So that was pretty neat. I wanted to kind of make this a milestones of flight display. So I have an Apollo 11 landing module and a support capsule and a command module, and the little astronaut there and a flag. I made that for the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing. And then I have two pretty cool World War I fighters. I got a German Fokker, and this one has I think it's really wild, this Losange camouflage under the wings. Pretty neat. And this Spad was flown by our first American ace, Eddie Rickenbacker. And of course I have Fifi, the B-29 that I've gotten to know so well, and the Commemorative Air Force B-29, B-24 Squadron. This is a 72nd scale model. And this is pretty neat. This is a 3D model I made several years ago of Fifi. Kind of rough, but it was cool to try out the new technology and see what it looked like. So there you have it. It took a while for it to be trimmed and cleaned up, but it looks pretty neat. And then on the shelf here, I got most of my very favorite books. And a lot of the books on the shelf, these are biographies, not autobiographies. Some are signed by maybe the pilot that the book is about, and many times by the author. I got some good ones here, like friend Al, appreciate this. This is Flying with the Flak Pack by Kenny Kemp. So he's autographed that. He passed away a couple years ago. Really interesting book about B-24 missions. And then I have just a whole slew of really good ones here. There's different aces that I'm really excited about that definitely made a name for themselves in the war. On all sides, you got General Galland over here, and Bud Anderson, Joe Foss, Charlie Bond of Flying Tigers. Who else we got here? And books like The Higher Call and Devotion by Adam Makos. Devotion, of course, became a movie. And so all of these are signed or were special gifts, so they get the top of the shelf. And this right here is a signed piece of art that says Old Crow, signed by Bud Anderson, who passed away at 102 just maybe a summer or so ago, our last triple ace. So I'm going to be making a model of his plane Old Crow, and it'll sit on that display eventually. These are some of my favorite, I call them art or coffee table books, including probably my most treasured book at all. Oh, it's stuck in there pretty good. Sorry, I can't pull it out, but this is Roy Grinnell's art, and I was very, very fortunate to get to know Roy. And I'm going to pull this book out. There we go. And this one is in French and English. I think this was written for a French audience, so I got a chance to get a copy from Roy and Irene Grinnell. Really, really special book. And then some of the other books here, including the ones to the left, Roy did the covers for those books. And then I have a couple of books here, a few of them, like Robert Ballard, the ocean explorer, when he found the Bismarck, and he found some of the ships in the Battle of Midway. Saw him at an event once, so he signed a few of those. But really interesting books, great history, amazing photographs and artwork. And then on over to the left, I got some books signed by my friend Robert Phillips, who was in the 93rd Bomb Group and served in Italy. And he gave me a few of these and signed them. And then Ploesti. And then down here, I have a little more of that, more books like that. And some of these books I organized by ship or planes, but or Nozart, or there's one on strange aircraft. But this is a fun shelf of books that I take out once in a while and take a look at. They're fun to read over and check on stuff, give you inspiration, as I like to say. And then, like I have the dogfighters at the top, the two World War I dogfighters. I have my MiG and my F-86 Sabre. I think that's McConnell's, who's our top ace in the Korean War. And a few more books about World War II and planes itself. And then I wanted to hang these up in the room, but kind of hard to do. But these are two of my favorite planes, two 1/32 scale planes, Spitfire and a Messerschmitt. The Messerschmitt was flown by Adolf Galland, has the Mickey Mouse on the side. Okay, go away. Sometimes I have unwelcome visitors like Fred the cat. And then at the very bottom, I have just a mixture of things. My high school yearbook, some books about Hollywood, when my wife and I worked out there. I have some original comic books and some artwork that's signed. And one of my 3D printed models I haven't finished yet, a Thunderbolt coffee cup with SpongeBob drawn by Katie, X-Files, which the truth is has a crack in it. So I just keep that. I love that show back to the 90s. You can see a book about the X-Files there. And then over here, just shifting to this shelf, I got my portfolio from college and my early work in advertising, which included working at Chiat Day Mojo, which was an ad agency that created the whole Energizer Bunny campaign. Now I'm going to grab this step stool here and go to this pretty fantastic shelf. Oh, well, let's start to the left here before I get in steps. So this is my flight jacket from when I did a lot of flying with CAF or show up at special events. It has all my patches from the different aircraft and American flag. And that's my friend Robert Phillips, who I mentioned earlier, that he was an air gunner in the 98th that flew on a B-24. We'll see it in a minute. That's his hat, so I'm really happy to have that. He's passed away, and I was really proud to have known him. But let's go ahead and step up here to the very top of the shelf. And I got my armor collection. These are all armored vehicles that I made, starting with smaller German tanks. I can't pronounce them. They almost look like crazy alphabet thrown together. But some German tanks, maybe from the desert campaign in North Africa. And I got a T-34. This one's Stuart Honey, British tank in interesting colors, a Panther. This is a diorama I made because I really like the movie Sahara. And I have a little Humphrey Bogart. And he called his tank Lulabelle. I think that came out in 43 or 44. And I've made a 3D model of it too. So really enjoyed using that movie and the tank and bogey as an inspiration. And you can see the battleships in the back that are here being protected. Once in a while, I'll put them in the pool. And here you have a German soldier and our friend Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, the German general in North Africa that everybody seems to know, very well-known German general in the war. And a couple German tanks, the Sherman tank. Got a Pershing back there and a Cromwell. So good collection of tanks. I always had fun. I'll make any model, and I've enjoyed making my armor models. And now we'll cruise on down, pardon the pun, to look at some ships. This is a pretty special artifact I have here. When we went to Hawaii a couple years ago, and I called ahead, and one of their docents, Fort Ibisugawa, gave us a private tour of not just the Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, but some of the other sites on Ford Island. And he gave me this huge nut encrusted in barnacles and rusted, and he'd found that on the seaplane ramp where some of the first bombs fell on December 7th. And who knows, it could have blown off a battleship. It's pretty big, and the Battleship Row was not that far away. So I have that between one 700 scale model of the Arizona and in her new colors. Many historians now believe that she was more of a dark blue with a off-white or camouflage white upper superstructure, and then red turret tops, which would have made it easier for the seaplanes for each battleship to identify their home battleship. And of course, you got the other very famous battleship that's at Pearl Harbor now, not far from the Arizona Memorial, and there's the USS Missouri, also 700 scale. This is a 1/350 scale USS San Francisco, which my dad's from San Francisco, so of course there's a connection there. But I know a lot about the San Francisco history. In the 1942 in November, the naval battle of Guadalcanal, the San Francisco fought valiantly in a night battle against the Japanese and was severely damaged. I met a Navy crewman later named Joseph Witt and interviewed him. He was on the San Francisco during that horrific battle. And then right next to the San Francisco, I have my 1/350 scale U-boat, and this one is I forget what they called him in the movie Greyhound with Tom Hanks, the one that said "woo," it was the wolf submarine, so I painted a wolf on the side. And this is Tom Hanks' Fletcher class destroyer, portrayed by the USS Kidd in Baton Rouge, but also probably computer generated. So it actually has the number of the ship. It was a fictional destroyer, but it was, of course, based on all the destroyers and the convoys and the whole Battle of the North Atlantic. Very good movie. And then pull back, and I have my Titanic. This was a project I made just before the 100th anniversary of the sinking. My daughter Katie is very interested in the story of the Titanic, and I kind of made it as a project for her. It's great to go online because I got a lot of really good guidance on paint colors and scale effect and everything else. But you can see there's a lot of rigging. It took me about almost 5 months to build. It really wore me out, but I did get it done before the anniversary of the sinking in, well, I guess 2012, around April 14, 2012. And came out really, really nice. Very proud of that model. And this one I just threw over to the right. This is a Revell model. It's been around for many years. The USS Buckley. At Seawolf Park in Galveston, they have a replica of, well, I guess it is a Buckley class destroyer that's permanently on display there, and featured prominently in the movie The Enemy Below that came out in the 50s with Robert Mitchum and Kurt Jürgen. So pretty cool looking destroyer, and I weathered it and made it look much like the destroyer in the movie. Now I'm going to step down from my step stool, and I'm going to look at the different shelves here. I think you'll find this neat. So my top shelf here is World War II in the European theater. So all the models here are 1/48 scale. Except for this little baby Spitfire, which has the same markings as the 1/48 scale Spitfire for Group Captain Sir Douglas Bader, one of the most renowned RAF pilots. He lost his legs before the war, and then he petitioned, and he was able to fly in the war. And story goes, he was Douglas Bader. Did I say Bader? He was shot down, and one of his legs was torn off, I guess, when he was getting out of the cockpit. And he was so well known, the Germans agreed to have a new prosthetic leg dropped over the prison camp, which they did. The British had safe passage and did that. And then once Douglas Bader had it attached to his limb, he tried to escape. And then in the back you have, I call it the Snake Stuka, one of my favorite models as a kid. And I have the 32nd scale model to build, but big snake on the side. I just love the crew chief, or ever painted that. Don't know who flew it necessarily, but I just thought that was some wild camo, Desert Stuka. And I've made a 3D model of it. And this is another Spitfire flown by, I think it's a Canadian pilot named Burling. He was one of the top Canadian aces of the war. And then I can't remember this pilot that flew the Razorback Thunderbolt in the back. I just know that I really wanted to make a model with the checkered fuselage. I thought that was pretty cool to look at. And I will be swapping out models as more are made, but these are the ones I have on display currently. This is Short Fuse, P-51, flown by Major Turner, and also the name of my website, which is www.shortfuse3d.com. So kind of cool to make that. I made it in 3D and scale. And then back here you have Glacier Girl, which is the P-38 Lightning that was found by crew of explorers and excavated out of a glacier in, wow, I want to say Greenland. I can't remember for sure. And they're able to use a good portion of the parts they were able to rescue from the ice, and then custom build other parts, and were able to make that beautiful P-38 flyable again. She had been on her way to Europe, but I think the crew either got lost or had bad weather, and they set down the glacier and abandoned their planes. And for almost 100, well, let's say 50 years, I get the timing right, it was buried in the ice until it was found. This is a P-51 Mustang, Cripes Almighty, flown by a Major George Preddy. He was our top Mustang ace in European theater, and he might have gone on to become one of our greatest aces, maybe the top ace in the U.S. military in World War II, but he was tragically killed on Christmas Day by friendly fire when he was flying low level and chasing enemy aircraft. So very sad to lose him. And you can see the red and white motif there, including the antenna looking like a barber pole. The story goes that his crew chief was a barber in civilian life, so he added a little bit of that to the plane. And this is Robert Phillips B-24. I made it to the specifications he told me, including taking off the de-icer boots. And he flew, 38 missions, I believe, including one Pulaski mission. And I think he told me that he was the grumpy one on the plane, which is maybe why the nose art was grumpy. I think his pilot used to say that to him. And I don't remember I know it was the 93rd Bomb Group. I think I have over here that, he's based in Italy, and it was the 343rd Bomb Squadron. I can tell you that because if I pan over this way, I can see a painting of Robert's B-24 in action. There's Grumpy. And I got this from Robert. And this is a picture of Robert and his crew. Robert is the tall gentleman on the far left. So I'm really proud to have that in my collection and to remember Robert Phillips. In fact, when I made this for him, he was doing fine at the time, and he used to keep it right next to his television. I put the RP on the tail as a way to honor him. Down here on the shelf below, I have I call it the Pacific Theater of Combat, World War II planes from there. Steermen, maybe not necessarily just Pacific Theater. Most of our fighter pilots learned how to fly, and bomber pilots possibly, learned how to fly in a Stearman aircraft, which is a training aircraft. And then the aircraft behind that is a T-6, and you can see a gentleman get in the back. So it depicts, I think, a pilot, a new pilot being trained. And this one is one of the models that I've entered in a contest that's won an award, one of the Squadron Bronze medals in the back. So I'm proud of that. Here you have Lieutenant Welch. He was one of the two pilots that got airborne on December 7th, and that's his P-40 Warhawk, I believe. And then you have Dick Best, who was featured prominently in the more recent movie about Midway. There's his Dauntless. And then you have Joe Foss as Wildcat. He was in the Cactus Air Force. And I know he was one of the first pilot, if not the first pilot, to break Eddie Rickenbacker's record from World War I, which I think stood around 28 aerial victories. Then you have a very famous Japanese pilot, Saburo Sakai, is one of their top pilots. I know that he came very close to shooting down a transport carrying Lyndon Johnson. And I think the transport got away, and Lyndon Johnson, of course, became our president many years later. Here you have Pappy Boyington's Corsair. Some people said this isn't the Corsair that he flew, but it does have his scorecard on the side and Lulubelle on it. So it's a great depiction of a Corsair that, if you want to associate Corsairs, of course, with Pappy Boyington, Medal of Honor recipient. Also, subject matter of the great TV show in the 70s I used to watch, Baba Black Sheep. Our greatest ace back here flew, this is Marge, a P-38 Lightning flown by Major Richard Bong, our top ace of World War II. He scored 40 aerial victories and then was tragically killed on August 6th, 1945. At the same time, the news was breaking about the atomic bomb being dropped on Hiroshima, and many newspapers had headlines for both the loss of Major Bong and the atomic mission right next to each other. He was very famous and um, uh, hero of America. So it was sad to see his loss, and he was test piloting a jet at the time. This, I don't know the pilot's name, but this is another one of my models that won a squadron award. I have it. It's a Japanese. Oh, please, people, is it Frank or an Oscar? I can't remember. It's one or the other. But I think what got the attention of the judges is it's heavily weathered, which toward the end of the war, some of the later model Japanese aircraft were pretty capable, but the Japanese didn't really have stockpiles of paint and the maintenance, and a lot of that was devastated by our B-29 bombers. And so the planes were pretty beat up. And so I weathered this one pretty heavily. Then back here you have B-25 gunship, Lady Lil, or I think that's the name of this one. You'll see another image of that, a fantastic one, in just a minute. But this was fun to build, and both this and the two Pre-38s that you saw are able to stand on their nose gear. I put enough weight in the nose gear of the models to make them able to stand on their nose gear without a support in the back. That's pretty cool. I mean, I really wanted to do that. And then finally, you have Commander Joseph McCampbell, who was our top Navy ace. Let me get this right. I think he had, oh boy, I should have had this right, 34 aerial victories, including during the Marianas Turkey Shoot. On one mission, he shot down 9 enemy aircraft. And this is his F-5 Hellcat named Mincy. The camera rear wing of the CAF has a beautiful rendition of this aircraft, a flying warbird. But probably the most feared of the maybe along with the P-38 of the American aircraft by the Japanese, because this one was rugged, very capable. All of the best things we learned about fighter aircraft in early World War II, I think, went into the technology behind this one, and very capable aircraft, and could take a lot of punishment too. Down here I have my bottom shelf. This is pretty neat because it's a really special displays. I have some ribbons from some art contests, but this Call of Duty flamethrower guy is signed by Don Graves. There's Don Graves. He carried a flamethrower at the Battle of Iwo Jima, and I think he said his flamethrower weighed more than he did. So I'm really happy to have that signed. This is very special. This is a diorama of the 29th Infantry storming Omaha Beach on D-Day. My wife had gone on a trip with a school group to Europe, and she collected a little bit of sand from Omaha Beach. So this diorama with these 1/35th scale soldiers on it they're on top of some sand from Omaha Beach. So that makes it almost a priceless artifact in my mind. I have some CAF awards here. I am proud of the awards, but they have a dual purpose. By positioning them where they are, the cats in the house cannot jump on the upper shelves. I think that keeps them off the shelves so they won't break the models. But I'm very proud of those awards. With my CAF unit, I was in for 10 years. These two models are on a base built by my late friend Ken Kovar, so that makes it special, very special. And then the one to the left is a P-51 that was based in Iwo Jima, flown by Captain Jerry Yellen. So he flew 19 missions in World War II, and I got to know him after the war, and he signed that model. And then next to that is a Korean War Corsair flown, this one is a model kit of a Corsair, but I got a chance to meet Colonel Joe McPhail at some CAF air shows, and he flew Corsairs in both World War II and Korea, and he autographed that. Back here, I have my MASH diorama, and I love the show, of course. It's a great show, but what makes this really special is a friend of mine, well, it was almost 15 years ago, had some type of connection to the show, and he gave me as a surprise, a very special gift. This is a script from one of the MASH episodes, The Yellow Brick Road. It's signed by Mike Farrell, who was BJ on the show. It says, "Peace, Mike Farrell." And I have a 35th scale MASH chopper, pilot and wounded soldiers, and a medical jeep, and then Dodge ambulance. And on top of my book about MASH. And I've made an entire 3D model of the MASH camp. If you ever go to my website, you can see it. This is I think Robert gave me this. In fact, it's a B-24 die-cast model of a Snow White. You'll see a 3D version in just a minute. And this is my CAF cup. It's full of buttons and challenge coins and different things I've collected. The wings of a pilot that I got to know in California. I'll get his name in a minute. And then here you have a stamp my great aunt collected. It shows the U.S. troops marching under the Arc de Triomphe in France during the liberation of Paris. So that was framed by my kids for me. And then I have some drawers. I have so many other models that aren't on display, including a white tiger in here and some others down low, including my Bismarck models and carrier models. So I got to find a place for those one day. Here you have my nightstand. It's got my Snoopy and my portfolio book with a lot of 4x6 pictures of different models, 3D and plastic and dioramas. And then a lot of very special books here. Most of the books in this stack are from Squadron Signal. They are the walk around and the in-action books. I have quite a collection of those. And then to the right here you have what I call graphic novels, graphic history books. You can see just the edge of one about Pearl Harbor there. Something I'd like to do and maybe add a digital component since I do 3D modeling. So that's what I'm thinking of looking at to make history come alive and kind of have that eye candy what the kids are used to seeing when it comes to 3D models, and use that to tell some great true stories from history. These are all my Osprey books, another great collection of really good reference books from that company, and just some more general great coffee table books about World War II, the Last Good War, great stuff. One I think I won from the Smithsonian in a contest. I think that's history as I saw it. So that's neat to have. Let's move on to the art. Told you it'd be a long tour, but you don't have to go anywhere. There's not a lot of walking on this tour. So here's the painting I showed you for Robert, representing Robert Phillips aircraft. This is a profile of a B-25 from the very famous Doolittle mission from April of 1942. And saw Dick Cole at quite a few squadron events, and he signed this to Con Best Wishes. He was Jimmy Doolittle's co-pilot, first plane that took off of the Hornet for that mission, payback time. Here I have a photograph of my son walking on the USS Lexington the morning after a Cub Scout sleepover on the ship. Amazing experience for both of us. And I caught this picture of the conning tower and my son in the fog and entered it in a photography and art competition and won first place. Here I have a very large painting by Don Greer, who was the Squadron Signal in-house artist for many, many, many years. And most of the walk-around and action books have his artwork on the cover. This is called Reigning Over the Reich, but I thought it looked great right there, right above where I sit down and do my thinking. Here's my stuff. So I do 3D modeling, and this is a collection of some of my models, 11 by 17, and I can recreate that anytime. If anybody'd like to get one from me, I can ship them to you. Wouldn't be that expensive. If you like 3D modeling, you like the subject matter. But I have Old Crow at the top. All the models here are made from scratch, except for that B-17. That was a model I found on the internet. But still, that's only about half the job. And the model is something else, but then you got to do the texture mapping to get it to look and represent the aircraft you want it to look like. So that's a bit of lace, which is one of my favorite B-17s, Old Crow, P-51. There's Pappy Boyington's Corsair, knocking down a Zero, and you have Bong's P-38. This is a project coming up, and you saw the orange plane earlier. I want to paint it like that. This is Gabby Gabreski, who was our one of our, well, yeah, he might have been the top ace in the European theater. Yeah, that's right. And he flew a P-47 Thunderbolt, and you can see it there in its invasion stripes. And so that'll be a project coming up. This is a B-29 flown by a dear friend of mine, knew for many years, Charles Chauncey. He was the aircraft commander for Goin' Jesse in the foreground here. And then in the background, I believe I have Jerry Yellen's plane. They often flew together. The B-29s helped the Mustangs navigate to the Japanese home islands. Here's the diecast model I showed earlier. This is Snow White, and then right behind Snow White the Witch, two aircrafts that were paired together in a moment from history at the Pulaski raid. Both were shot down, and but one of them, I believe it was Snow White, fell back against orders to protect the Witch when she was lagging behind because of damage to her engines from flak, and they both got shot down. So two very, very brave crews during the Pulaski raid. The most Medal of Honor recipients in one mission, five in one day. Three of them were posthumously given, and all the crews got commendations for their bravery that day. Here's one of my most complex projects of all time, the 3D model of the Bismarck at the Battle of Denmark Strait, where the Bismarck sunk the beloved HMS Hood. So that was inspired by a picture I saw on the internet, that perspective, and I think it looks pretty amazing just to see the geyser of water from a near hit and then guns blazing. Here's that Snake Stuka and Humphrey Bogart's Lulu Bell in the distance. I hope it's a near miss. I hope Lulu Bell escapes, but that Stuka's dive bomber and dropping bombs on the M3 Lee tank there. Then jump forward to a tank in the present day. Here's my M1 Abrams tank I made in 3D, and some Apache helicopters. Yeah, Apaches, I think. In the background, all made original models. And then finally, two models I was very lucky to I still can see these two fantastic aircraft at the CAF in Dallas. So this is Fifi, our B-29, and then Diamond Lil, our B-24, which out of 18,000 B-24s built was the 25th off the assembly line in May of 1941. Incredible plane to see, and I'm so privileged I got to fly in her on many occasions. And then it's just my thinking couch, my Chase lounge with my blanket, so it's great. I can sit here and think, read books, watch movies, take a power nap if I need to. So that's in the room now. And then under there, I have a little surprise, giant F-86 Sabre. So see, that's under the bed to play with. Some people have monsters in their bed. I have jets. This is something I can't believe I did when I was at AFI in Hollywood. If you were to look at the history of 3D and the real pioneers, you have John Lasseter right at the top of the list. He's the founder of Pixar, producer director of Toy Story, and many of the Pixar movies since then. He really did it, pioneered it, and he signed this on the back of his car after a screening of Toy Story at the American Film Institute for me. This is something, and I hope you can go to my website and see it. You'll find it if you look for it. It's Jerry Yellen's words. It's a text from one of his books. He wrote 5 books, and it says, "I live for freedom, I live for peace," and he signed it. And so I have added my 3D Mustangs, including his in the foreground. And he told me that he gave this to somebody, and it might be hanging in the Pentagon. I don't know, but that'd be pretty cool. And then this needs to be bigger, but I call this Mustang Roundup. I just put this up. I need to make it bigger. Some more recent work I've done with my new Macintosh, some 3D P-51s, including a Gunfighter at the very top and Red Nose, 2 of the CAF P-51s that fly today. Now, to the good stuff with Roy Grinnell, my very dear friend, passed away in 2019. He and Irene gave me this very large piece of canvas art. This is that same model you saw earlier, Lady Lil. This is called Raid on the China Coast. And for many years, it's been my backdrop when I've been on Zoom calls. So it's awesome to have it in the room here. And then I have 2 other pieces from Roy and Irene. Here's Roy's Ploesti art. It's called Returning as Secondary, and depicts 2 of the Medal of Honor recipients, Lieutenant John Jerstead, Major Addison Baker, who led the 93rd over Ploesti that day, and both men were killed, and their whole crew was killed when their B-24 Hell's Wench took some fire, took some hits and caught on fire. So tragic end, but they were very brave men, and we honor them with that picture. Roy did a beautiful job. And then this is a painting Roy did as a gift for Irene. It's called Silky Kitten. It's a B-17, fictional B-17, but flying above them is a red tail P-51 flown by Calvin, I've lost Calvin's last name. One of the P-51 pilots that Roy got to know very well, Calvin Spann. And I'm one of the honorary crew members. There's a nice note from Roy Irene, but I'm one of the honorary crew members on this. I'm one of the waist gunners, so I'm very proud to tell people that. There's some other art I need to figure out how to put up, and of course when I make art I might swap it out here in my little museum. These are just some models I like to have near me when I'm working. Just kind of take a break and look at and play with sometimes. This is one of my tank models, a big hog. And it's just fun to have nearby. And this one, I have 2 boxes full of Star Trek stuff. I don't even have anywhere to put them, but this is the one I wanted to keep. This is a old AMT model. I think I did a pretty nice job putting it together of Mr. Spock. About to unload his phaser on a monster there. But that came out pretty good. I made that around the time that Leonard Nimoy passed away. And this one's fun. This is a B-17 alarm clock. I'm going to turn it on for you. But originally it looked kind of silly, just had camouflage and no real markings, so I repainted it and put on markings for little mischief, I think that is. And then it does this when you press the button. That's fun. I love it. It's a fun little thing. I wouldn't mind waking up to that, would you? And this is a coffee cup. I think Irene and Roy gave me this. Supersonic American Whoop-Ass, so just funny. And there's my workstation. I don't have anything on right now. But this is where I can work from home and do my 3D work too. And over here I have, I just got this bobblehead, this Karate Kid. But this is some of my 3D art. Oh, a donut I might have for lunch tomorrow. But my reading glasses, and then this is a 3D model of Chuck Yeager's Bell X-1, and this one I have images of it chasing the Demon. Back then, test pilots, some people thought Demon lived at the end of the sound barrier, but in a controlled flight, Chuck Yeager proved them that you could break the sound barrier. So I made this in 3D and mounted it. You can see one of the test runs there and some information about it. Beeman's gum, which is the gum of fighter pilots. They like the way it chewed, and in the story of the right stuff, the mythos was written in the book by Tom Wolfe that Chuck Yeager asked to borrow some gum from the flight engineer before he took his historic flight, because if you're a test pilot and you borrowed something, you'd have to be around later to give it back. Anyway, that's what I heard. And then you got some mini Chuck Yeager Bell X-1 mock busters there that I gave away in a class I did with some kids this summer at Dallas College Garland campus. So pretty neat. So that's more or less all of Con's Hangar. And I would love to have you visit. No admission charge. I just need to be here, and you could spend more time with the art and certainly look over some of the books. Might have a little art to give you to take home. So come by and see me, and then I'll keep adding to it. And I really hope I get a chance to meet you and talk to you more about it. And keep modeling, keep flying, and keep dreaming. I mean, having an office like this was a dream of mine, and now it's a reality. So that's all from Con's Hangar. Have a great night. Bye-bye.